Heartbreak is a teacher you never choose, yet one that often delivers the most profound lessons. It arrives with a weight that presses on the chest, a grief that echoes in quiet moments, and a longing that feels impossible to name. In its presence, the world seems altered, the familiar streets, the quiet of a room, even your own heartbeat feels different. There is a subtle, almost undeniable truth. The pain is shaping you, quietly revealing patterns, strengths, and truths about yourself that would otherwise remain unseen. If these words touch something deep within, staying here will help transform that raw ache into insight, understanding, and eventually gentle hope. Heartbreak teaches the fragility of control. Life reminds us that no matter how carefully we plan, how deeply we love, or how earnestly we try, some things cannot be held tightly. That realization is painful, but it is also liberating. It nudges the self to understand the limits of influence and the importance of surrender. In that surrender, there is a subtle freedom, the chance to live with awareness that life unfolds beyond expectation, and that holding too tightly often suffocates both love and growth. This is not resignation. It is the beginning of clarity, the recognition that vulnerability carries strength as well as sorrow. It also reveals the depth of resilience within. When the heart feels shattered, every day can feel like a climb, every moment a test. Yet enduring, breathing, and continuing to inhabit life through heartbreak shows that even in vulnerability, there is capacity for endurance. Each tear shed, each sleepless night, each moment of missing or longing is testimony to the human ability to carry pain and still move forward. The self, often underestimated in quiet moments, becomes aware of its capacity to survive, to process, and to ultimately heal. Heartbreak teaches presence in unexpected ways. When loss arrives, the mind and heart may feel fragmented, scattering focus across memories, regrets, and what-ifs. Yet by noticing these impulses, by allowing them to exist without judgment, the self begins to inhabit the present in a subtler, deeper manner. Each awareness of a thought, each gentle observation of emotion, is a lesson in mindfulness. The pain itself is the doorway into noticing the fragility, impermanence, and preciousness of every fleeting moment. Staying here, breathing through it, and noticing the intricacies of feeling becomes a practice in intimate self-awareness. It also exposes the illusions that were once held tightly. Beliefs about self-worth, love, and adequacy are often challenged in heartbreak. The self may have thought, if I love enough, I will be loved fully, or if I give all of myself, I can prevent loss. These assumptions crumble, leaving a raw, painful space that feels like emptiness, but is actually fertile ground. In this space, clarity grows. The self learns that love cannot be forced, that value is inherent, and that attachment is natural but not absolute. These realizations, though painful, carry seeds of future wisdom and grounded self-love. Heartbreak also illuminates the intensity of human emotion. Joy and sorrow, longing and relief, hope and despair, these contrasts are felt most vividly when the heart is broken. This awareness teaches depth of feeling, sensitivity, and empathy. The self becomes attuned not only to its own emotional landscape, but to the humanity in others. Compassion grows because heartbreak is a universal experience, one that bridges isolation and fosters understanding. Remaining connected to spaces that honor this pain, even through gentle reflection here, becomes a quiet reminder that the self is not alone. Subscribing here is not about content. It is about keeping a companion to reflect with, to remember that shared understanding softens suffering. Loss teaches impermanence in the most tangible way. Everything the self has held, trusted, or invested in is subject to change. Heartbreak is a visceral lesson that nothing is permanent, that attachments shift, that moments pass. This realization is not meant to diminish love or hope, but to awaken a grounded understanding of life's fluidity. It is a lesson in adaptation, in trusting the self to navigate change, and in cultivating inner steadiness despite the turbulence of loss. The experience also clarifies what matters most. In the wake of heartbreak, superficialities fall away, leaving only the essentials: connection, authenticity, integrity, and self-knowledge. It is in this clarity that the self begins to discern priorities, values, and boundaries that were previously hidden or ignored. Heartbreak forces reflection on what deserves energy, attention, and presence, and what is not. This discernment becomes a compass for future relationships, choices, and emotional investment. It fosters courage to feel fully. Many shy away from heartbreak because the intensity of emotion is frightening. Yet the self learns that embracing grief, longing, and sadness is not a weakness. It is courage in its purest form. To feel, to cry, to reflect, and to acknowledge the depth of loss is to engage with life fully, rather than hiding from its truths. Each act of emotional bravery, though painful in the moment, strengthens resilience and deepens capacity for love, compassion, and understanding. Heartbreak teaches patience with time. Healing does not occur on demand. It unfolds with rhythm, nuance, and sometimes unpredictability. The self learns that pain, like a tide, rises and recedes, and that gentle attention, rather than force, guides recovery. Each day, each small step toward acceptance, is a lesson in timing, trust, and the unfolding of life's processes. Rushing through grief or trying to control healing only prolongs struggle, but patience fosters integration and understanding. Finally, heartbreak teaches hope. Even in despair, the self glimpses moments of light, laughter with friends, a warm memory, a quiet sunrise. These moments are not fleeting distractions. They are reminders that life contains renewal, growth, and joy, even after profound loss. The pain does not negate hope. It magnifies the value of each act of love, connection, and presence moving forward. Staying connected with reflections, spaces, or supportive guidance reminds the self that hope is always accessible, even when it feels distant or fragile. By now, the heart can recognize that heartbreak, as painful as it is not punishment, it is instruction. Each lesson, subtle or stark, carries wisdom that strengthens, grounds, and illuminates the path toward resilience, understanding, and self-compassion. If these reflections resonate, returning to this space, subscribing, and engaging in continued exploration offers quiet support. Heartbreak does not need to isolate. It can instead connect, teach, and ultimately transform. Healing begins the moment the self stops resisting pain and starts listening to it. Heartbreak may feel unbearable, but beneath the ache lies insight, waiting patiently to be received. Each tear, each sleepless night, each pang of longing is not wasted. It is a messenger, revealing what matters most, where boundaries were blurred, and which aspects of self-worth require gentle reinforcement. By leaning into these emotions, rather than fleeing from them, the self begins the delicate work of understanding and reframing. The lessons embedded in heartbreak, resilience, patience, courage, clarity, and hope, start to unfold naturally when observed with awareness and compassion. One of the most transformative aspects of heartbreak is the way it teaches the self to redefine attachment. In the grip of loss, it is easy to cling to memories, regrets, or longing for the way things were. Yet the self can learn to hold these moments lightly, to honor them without being bound by them. Visualization can be a powerful tool. Imagine placing these attachments in a gentle stream, watching them drift away without force or resistance. The process is not denial, it is conscious release, a recognition that while the past shaped the self, it does not define the present or the future. Each act of release, however subtle, expands capacity for joy, freedom, and presence. Heartbreak also strengthens the ability to establish boundaries. When pain stems from love lost or connection disrupted, the self learns what is worth protecting and where energy should be invested. Understanding these boundaries is not about shutting the world out. It is about creating space to heal, reflect, and grow without unnecessary interference or expectation. Each choice to honor one's limits is an act of self-respect, reinforcing the lessons of heartbreak and cultivating a stronger, more grounded sense of self. The experience deepens empathy. Feeling profound loss or disappointment opens the heart to the emotional realities of others. The self becomes attuned to subtle cues, to unspoken suffering, and to the shared humanity of grief. Compassion grows organically because heartbreak fosters awareness of both personal vulnerability and universal fragility. Remaining connected to reflections, supportive spaces, or quiet guidance enhances this process, providing a gentle reminder that while heartbreak can feel isolating, the experience itself is deeply shared, creating bridges rather than walls. Forgiveness, often the most difficult step, is transformative in the healing process. It may begin with forgiving others, acknowledging their limitations, and recognizing that actions were never entirely within one's control. Equally important is self-forgiveness, releasing judgment for choices made in love, understanding that the self acted with the best knowledge and capacity at the time. Each act of forgiveness lightens the emotional load, creating clarity and room for renewal. Forgiveness is not a single moment. It is a practice, a rhythm of recognition, release, and gentle acceptance. Heartbreak also reveals the importance of presence. The mind may ruminate endlessly, cycling through if-onlys and what could-have-beens, but conscious attention to the present moment fosters grounding. Breathing deeply, noticing sensations, observing thoughts without attachment, these practices stabilize the self and anchor attention in what is real. Presence does not eliminate pain, but it provides perspective, resilience, and the ability to act from clarity rather than impulse. Over time, the self learns that suffering, while inevitable, can coexist with conscious living. Each lesson of heartbreak is reinforced through reflection and ritual. Journaling, meditation, or even quiet contemplation allows the self to process emotions without judgment, to translate pain into understanding, and to integrate insights into daily life. The lessons of heartbreak, control, resilience, presence, empathy, impermanence, priorities, courage, patience, forgiveness, and hope, are not theoretical. They are woven into the lived experience. By creating intentional space to acknowledge, explore, and practice these lessons, the self transforms heartbreak from a source of suffering into a powerful teacher. The body mirrors emotional healing. Tension, heaviness, or constriction may linger physically, yet gentle movement, breath work, and awareness signal to the nervous system that it is safe to release. Each small adjustment, rolling the shoulders, lengthening the spine, deepening the breath, supports emotional integration. Mind and body, when aligned, reinforce each other's capacity for resilience and expansion, making the lessons of heartbreak tangible and embodied. Connection continues to play a role in transformation. Sharing reflections with trusted friends, supportive communities, or reflective spaces reinforces the internal work. Heartbreak may feel isolating, yet engaging with empathetic others reminds the self that suffering is shared and that growth is possible. Subscribing here, not as a simple act of following, but as a commitment to ongoing guidance, provides a gentle companion for reflection, insight, and sustained healing. Finally, heartbreak teaches hope in the most subtle and enduring way. Even amidst despair, the self can notice sparks of light, warm memories, gentle laughter, or moments of beauty that pierce grief. These glimpses are not fleeting distractions. They are affirmations that life holds renewal, joy, and growth beyond pain. With practice, the self learns to recognize these moments, to embrace them fully, and to integrate them into a life that is richer, more grounded, and more resilient. Heartbreak does not preclude hope. It magnifies it, showing how deeply the self can feel, endure, and ultimately rise. By now, the self begins to understand that heartbreak, while painful, is instructive. Each lesson, when acknowledged and integrated, strengthens the capacity to love, connect, and inhabit life with courage. Healing does not erase grief, but it reframes it, allowing the self to move with presence, wisdom, and grace. Remaining engaged with reflective practices, supportive spaces, and gentle guidance reinforces this process. Subscribing here becomes a quiet commitment to self-care, insight, and continued emotional growth. A reminder that even in heartbreak, the path forward is available, nurturing, and profoundly human. Heartbreak leaves an indelible mark, but its lessons can shape the self into someone wiser, stronger, and more attuned to life's depth. The pain, as raw and unbearable as it may feel in the moment, is not a sentence. it is a guide. It teaches resilience, empathy, patience, presence, and hope, and these lessons, once integrated, create a foundation for living with authenticity and courage. Each memory, every pang of longing, and all the quiet moments of reflection are invitations to understand the self more deeply, to reclaim energy, and to inhabit life fully without apology. The journey through heartbreak is not about erasing pain or denying attachment. It is about transforming them. Each lesson learned is a thread woven into the fabric of growth. Control, resilience, clarity, presence, empathy, impermanence, priorities, courage, patience, forgiveness, and hope. All 10 emerge not as abstract ideas, but as lived realities. They manifest in the self's choices, in the awareness of the body and mind, and in the way life is experienced moving forward. Observing this transformation is itself a source of empowerment. The self begins to see that heartbreak, while painful, has opened doors to a deeper understanding of love, connection, and life. Integration happens in the rhythm of daily life. Each time the mind drifts toward what if, or the body tenses with remembered longing, there is an opportunity to return to breath, to notice sensation, and to gently release. These small, deliberate acts create an internal landscape in which the self can experience freedom alongside reflection, presence alongside grief, and clarity alongside memory. Even when emotions resurface unexpectedly, the self now has tools to respond with awareness rather than reaction, with compassion rather than blame, and with understanding rather than resistance. The embodiment of these lessons is equally profound. The body, once heavy with tension, begins to feel lighter as emotional release becomes habitual. Shoulders relax, chest opens, posture straightens, not as a forced act, but as a natural response to the internal work of healing. Breath deepens, gaze softens, and the nervous system gradually learns that vulnerability does not mean danger. Inhabiting the self fully with awareness and presence reinforces each lesson of heartbreak in a way that is tangible, steady, and enduring. Heartbreak also deepens connection to others. Compassion grows because the self has felt loss, longing, and grief, and knows intimately how these emotions resonate in every human heart. Relationships, whether past, present, or future, are approached with greater authenticity and understanding. The self can offer empathy, patience, and presence to others because it has learned to do so for itself. This interconnectedness is a subtle but profound gift of heartbreak, demonstrating that suffering, when processed with awareness, can transform into insight and connection. Hope emerges as both a quiet companion and a radiant force. Even amidst despair, small glimpses of light, a conversation, a memory, a smile, a moment of beauty, serve as reminders that life holds renewal. Heartbreak teaches that hope is not naive. It is cultivated through resilience, reflection, and conscious engagement with life. The self learns that despair does not erase possibility, that loss does not eliminate love, and that even the deepest sorrow can coexist with joy when viewed through the lens of understanding and growth. Returning often to reflection, meditation, or supportive spaces strengthens this integration. Heartbreak may never be forgotten, but its intensity need not dominate the present. Subscribing here, engaging with gentle guidance, and returning to reflective practices serve as ongoing reminders that the self is not alone in the journey. The work of integrating lessons becomes not a solitary effort, but a shared experience of insight, connection, and growth. Presence, resilience, and hope are reinforced with each mindful return to practice. The culmination of this journey is subtle yet powerful. The self learns to inhabit life fully without being defined by heartbreak. Pain is acknowledged, but no longer controls perception. Memories are honored without attachment. Longing and grief coexist with joy, clarity, and freedom. Every lesson of heartbreak, each insight, awareness, and act of release, shapes a self that is resilient, compassionate, and authentically alive. Life is experienced not as a series of losses to endure, but as a continuous unfolding in which growth, connection, and meaning emerge organically. In this space, the self can step forward with courage. The lessons of heartbreak are no longer theoretical. They are lived, embodied, and integrated. Each act of presence, every moment of reflection, each gentle release reinforces the capacity to move through life with balance, understanding, and authenticity. Pain, while undeniable, becomes a teacher rather than a captor, guiding the self toward a life that is expansive, deeply felt, and profoundly connected. Finally, the self recognizes that heartbreak is not an ending, it is a passage. The lessons it offers are permanent guides, shaping perception, emotional intelligence, and relational depth. With each breath, each act of presence, and each moment of mindful reflection, the self carries forward not just healing, but empowerment. By choosing to remain connected to spaces that support awareness, reflection, and compassion, including this one, the self maintains gentle guidance and quiet encouragement for the ongoing journey. Subscribing here is a soft commitment to continued growth, a reminder that even after heartbreak, the path forward is illuminated with insight, resilience, and hope. The ultimate message is simple yet profound. Heartbreak, for all its pain, is a profound teacher. It reveals the capacity to feel deeply, endure courageously, and love authentically. It strengthens the self's understanding of boundaries, priorities, and compassion. And above all, it reminds the self that even in grief, hope endures. Every lesson, once embraced, empowers the self to step forward with clarity, presence, and the quiet certainty that life, rich, vibrant, and fully alive, awaits.